Welcome to Point Blank, brought to you by Fitz Roofing. I am Brandon Stranger, Sports Map Houston. He is Joel Blank of ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 here in Houston. If you love Houston sports, please like this video now and subscribe to the channel. This week, Andre Johnson, who is not a prolific social media user, posted on Twitter and Instagram in support of Deshaun, telling him to, quote, stand your ground. And he's name-checking Easterbee out in the public. This isn't like some sort of cryptic tweet. He's saying Jack Easterbee. Arian Foster actually retweeted that and said, hey, if Dre's speaking about this, you know the situation's bad. So now, concurrently, Deshaun's camp is saying that Watson's upset because he's not being involved in the hiring process. So, Joel, in your opinion, are all these things indicative that Easterbee is politicking behind the scenes to have influence in the hiring process and exclude Deshaun Watson from that?
Yeah, I don't know how it excludes Deshaun Watson as much as it makes sure that everything he did ended up with him being employed by the Texans on the football side of things. Because if you think about it, whether you go to the Korn Ferry suggestions or you go to the committee members that were not in place to give them suggestions, every other suggestion would have had Jack Easterbee out of the process going forward once the new general manager was hired. The one that he would survive and actually thrive in would be with Nick Caserio. So if this was a true mastermind plan by Jack Easterbee, kudos to him for being as sly and intelligent as any kind of criminal in a CSI episode to basically concoct a scheme where a guy he knows and knows well would get the job so that in part he could keep Jack where he wants to be, which is on the football side of things. But this goes more to being a reflection of Cal McNair. Once you're right, because once Andre Johnson speaks, and as DeAndre Hopkins said, when Dre speaks, people listen. And so therefore, you need to pay attention. But what I want to see is, even more so than if they fire, what happens to Easterbee, how does Cal react? If Cal just goes back into the woodwork, then everything that we've heard about Cal is true. He wants to be hands-off. He just cares about making money. And he's not going to be that guy that stirs it up. And he also seems to be very, very fond of Jack Easterbee. But short of J.J. Watt backing up what Andre Johnson said and having the two most famous and popular and known Texans of all time coming up against this guy, Andre has said enough that it speaks volumes, and with the backup he's gotten on Twitter and otherwise by players and other people, Cal has to react to this. And if he reacts the proper way, he can give Nick Caserio a clean slate to keep doing what he was hired to do and do it well, and he can give the Texans fans hope that they are turned the corner, fully done with the Bill O'Brien era, and they can move forward in a positive direction.
Nick Caserio does find himself in a tough spot, and I want to get your opinion on what he should do here. But before we do that, why don't you tell our viewers about Fitz Roofing?
Yeah, we love the people at Fitz Roofing. Look, they're loyal to Sports Map. They're loyal to the ESPN 97.5 crowd, and they do so by making sure that they're also loyal to the city of Houston, Texas. That means they're going to take care of you and all your roofing needs, and they do it with the first consultation for free. Free, no-obligation inspection today. All you got to do is call 832-521-3001. They come to you. They tell you what they can do. Fix a roof, put a new roof, business or home, it doesn't matter. They take care of you. If you want them to come back, you reach back out. Best ratings in the business, best products in the business, and the best warranties too. Check them out, Fitz Roofing, making a difference one home at a time.
Nick Caserio is in a tough spot here because Jack Easterbee, if we believe the reports, lobbied to bring over Caserio. Now Caserio's here, and Easterbee is at the center, seemingly, of a power struggle between him and the team's franchise quarterback. So if you're in his shoes, would hiring Eric Bieniemy as the head coach, who is still available, he's still out there, could that be enough to quell the animosities? In other words, if Deshaun gets his guy, does the Easterbee chatter go away?
It should. And I say that because even if you don't hire him, at least, and maybe you can blame it on the fact you didn't have a general manager, but once Caserio got in the position, he reached out to make the ask to have the interview with Bieniemy. So from Deshaun's perspective, that should already start to squelch all of the negativity. Now, it's crazy because Deshaun's relationship with Easterbee seems to be kind of both sides, because if you believe and read between the lines, it seems like he wants Easterbee gone. He wants the team with a different culture going in a different direction. But if you also recall, the fan in the stands that had the Fire Easterbee sign, Deshaun was pretty adamant as one of the guys that wanted that guy to put the sign down and to leave Easterbee alone. So I don't know if Easterby is truly a guy that Deshaun has in his crosshairs. I think Deshaun has just an organizational culture in his crosshairs of saying, hey, the way we've been doing it is wrong. We need to do it differently going forward. I want to be part of the process. And to the point of hiring Caserio, he hasn't been. If Caserio involves him, if they talk to guys he wants them to talk to, even if they don't go through and actually hire those people, at least they're listening and they're keeping it involved, which is what it seems like he wants them to do.
One of the interesting dynamics of this, Joel, is that Eric Bieniemy has been interviewed several times now, and teams seem to be going another direction. And we have heard insiders say Bieniemy hasn't interviewed well. So let's say Caserio doesn't love Bieniemy. Do you think Caserio would hire a coach that maybe isn't his first choice to protect Jack Easterby?
I think it's possible. I think it's more about building his own legacy and his own reputation. As we've talked about, whether it be with James Click or Rafael Stone or now with Nick Caserio, we'll start judging him based on the first major moves that they make. And I think that from the case of Caserio, his first major move is going to be a head coach. And the good thing is they're going to sit down and meet with Bieniemy and find out for themselves. You hate to believe what everybody else is saying, but there are also reports out there as early as today that said that there's a good possibility Bieniemy doesn't get hired by any team at all for this cycle, whether it be because the Chiefs make a long Super Bowl run or because teams have soured on him once talking to him. But at least they're going to find out, and they can actually have conversations with Deshaun based on what they find out. And maybe Deshaun's actually in those conversations. So Deshaun, I don't think is going to be a problem as long as he's involved. And if Deshaun understands the reasons why you didn't take Eric Bieniemy, I think you're fine. I don't know how it affects Jack Easterby either way, but I think that overall, the more you can push Easterby away from football decisions and the more you can let Nick Caserio handle them, the better off you're going to be.
I just think we do need to reiterate, these are unprecedented times within the Texans organization, if not the NFL, where someone who's in a front office position is seemingly holding an entire franchise hostage. What else has to happen for Jack Easterby to finally get the boot from Houston?
I think that more and more players have to speak up. And look, the other thing is Jack Easterby, if Nick Caserio, a guy that he handpicked, came in and got rid of him, he shouldn't be upset at all. Because in fact, in truth, when you look at it, it's kind of what he did to Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien brought Jack Easterby in. All we heard about was me and Jack on my back porch traded DeAndre Hopkins. Me and Jack did the draft. Well, guess what? All of a sudden, Jack turned on Bill, got a mutiny based on the players and their voicemails and text messages, and got Bill fired, and somehow survived. So if turnaround is fair play, if that's exactly what Caserio does to Easterby, hey, Jack, taste your own medicine. You got what you did to somebody else, and it's time for everyone to move forward. So I don't know how Jack continues to survive. If he survives this, it's more on Cal, but it's also on Caserio. And I don't think Caserio wants that. And I don't think that Cal, at the end of the day, if he wants people to keep buying merchandise and tickets, can afford to have that happen. So whether he's his own personal friend or not, and whether it's Cal or Caserio that gets the blame, there are bigger decisions to be made for this franchise, and they have to act swiftly, get Jack Easterby out of the equation, and start worrying about positivity going forward by doing the right things.